There we go. There goes my pressure. I'm always happy when I'm very grateful to the internet, and I'm very grateful to social media because we are live, and I love Wednesday nights, and I love to share my studio with brave and courageous and people like you. Pam Coulter, I'm so happy to meet you. We met just briefly. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Dr. Tova Goldfein. This is TMS Roundtable Recovery, Healing Chronic Pain and Autoimmune Symptoms. And I've been here most weeks for the last 4 or 5 years, trying to help people learn these methods, learn the power of the doctor within. And I met you, Pam, on one of the Facebook pages, and I saw that you commented, and I'm always like, I want to meet this woman. And we had a little bit of Facebook stuff, but then I reached out to you, and we've been emailing, and then we spoke. Pam, I heard your story, and it was unbelievable. And I always like to say, people that heal themselves, they're not Dalai Lamas on the mountain. They're not walking on water. They're human beings, just like you and I, who make a decision and educate themselves and apply and implement these self-healing methods that are science and are able to heal themselves. And I believe anyone and everyone can. And to never give up and never try. And so let's hear your story of hope and belief, because it's really, and I will do my best not to interrupt.
Okay, well, please, because I don't want to go off on any tangents, and I want to really stay focused. So I welcome any pauses or questions, or please.
Great.
Thank you so much for having me. As you and I were just talking earlier, it's without folks like you, and the YouTube folks, the podcasts, the books, there would be no hope. I mean, these were very, very, very dark times. Not for somebody who hasn't had issues in the past with dark times, so to speak. So my husband and I were kind of, I hate the term, but living the dream. We had hit some milestones in our life. We'd been married 30 years, and I'm not going to tell you our ages, but we hit a milestone birthday. We retired. COVID hit, and then we were coming out of it. And I was signed up for a 5th Ironman. I'm an Ironman triathlete. I'm not good, but I come across the finish line.
Showing up.
That's it. Half dead. But so in late 2021, I had experienced prior to that some calf weakness. And so I decided, I'm going to go see sports medicine at our healthcare organization here, and went to see if we could get that tuned up a bit so that I could run better. And, I couldn't go up on my tiptoe. And it was just kind of this odd thing. It had been going on actually a couple years. So I went to see the sports med guy and prep for training for the Ironman a few months after that. And the sports medicine guy kind of freaked out, and he was like, this horrific kind of worried look on his face, and was testing reflexes and, asking me to do these maneuvers, and noted that I had a real small calf in comparison to the right one. It wasn't obviously small. I'm an RN, and worked palliative care and program startup in that. So, I know kind of all the scary stuff that can happen. So, I would think I would have kind of noticed that, but I didn't. And maybe that was intentionally too, like, who wants to really look your mortality in the face? And so he sent me on, that's kind of where the spiral down began for me. I think it was just this horrific fear. Gosh, I can't even I hate, like, going back there is like awful, but it's important to do. Here to help others. So if I can help others with this.
Thank you. And you're safe now. I mean, you are it was scary then, and the thoughts are scary, but right now, and then you were safe. So just know that your brain took you into fight or flight and threat mode. And now you know thoughts and words can make you feel scared, but they're just thoughts and words. Your body's safe. You're strong. Even with 1 week calf, you were strong. You had accomplished a lot. So continue.
Okay. So that began kind of this whole thing of referrals to neurologists, and and there was a waiting time. It was around the holidays. It was right around Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so I'd wait a few months for an MRI and saw an initial neurologist who, great doc, but neurologists, they're very sciencey and very scary, and was kind of thinking out loud and really scared the holy crap out of me, to be honest. And ran a couple MRIs, and they found of my calf that it had atrophy in it, and so started really the fear dance of ALS, the Lou Gehrig's disease of.
Did somebody say that to you?
Trying to remember, did I, in my nurse brain, my end of life nurse brain expertise, jump to that point? I think I asked that doctor initially, "Are you thinking ALS?" And he said, "Well, it's not on the top of my list." So for me, I sort of read that as, okay, but you're telling me there's a chance. I think that's from some movie. But anyway, you're telling me there's a chance that it is. So I planted all these things in my head as, telling my own stories throughout, waiting for tests and seeing neurologists. He referred me to a nerve muscle specialist, an ALS specialist, and that took another couple of months to actually get in and see her. So in the meantime, I'm just, oh no, I'm dying, and imagining and seeing and feeling and all this stuff related to, symptoms with ALS. It was just awful. But right around really late, it was right around Christmas then, and January, I got this severe tailbone pain where I couldn't sit, and some GI issues that were kind of like, what the heck? But I could not sit, and that lasted for about 4 months. And
Whoa.
yeah, so and this is for somebody who's complete. Like I say, I'm not a good athlete, but I'm an athlete, so a huge runner, huge biker, huge swimmer. It went from doing all that to laying in a bed scared and thinking and in pain.
Can imagine what was going through your head.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Thank you. And there's so many other of us out there like that, I've found. So where it's a lonely, sort of suffering, scared time. And so, a few months after that, and I went through all kinds of things, treatments and stuff that you do out of desperation to get better and get answers. But the symptoms started adding on, weird stuff like full body muscle twitching, which muscle twitching is an ALS symptom, and tremors and severe fatigue and insomnia, all just stuff just kept adding on. And so I ended up with the nerve muscle specialist who ran a test and said, "You don't have ALS. I don't see it. Come back, and don't tell me to come back." The neurologist kept telling me, "Come back if things get worse," which in my mind meant, we're watching and we're worried, So I'm like, I'm watching and I'm worried. So I think the fear, as we know, with mind-body stuff, just wreaks havoc, in my nervous system. Now looking back on this, I know what happened, but my nervous system went amok. Just picture this springs like, but sending these signals of fear to my brain, and my brain creating these danger signals and sending them out to my body to slow me down. So that went on for a couple of years. I mean, I saw probably 20 doctors, multiple specialists, maybe 6 neurologists, maybe 7. I left my healthcare system that I'd been at basically since a baby, and went out to a UC system to see their doctors. And so it was just, and more testing and more MRIs, and no answers. Everyone's kind of like, yeah, come back, but you're healthy.
Wow. Well, that must have been like a bittersweet, like, I'm having symptoms. You're telling me I'm healthy. I'm not getting relief from anything. It still must have left you in conflict, which is just, keeps the brain in that fight or flight. So continue. Then what happened?
Yeah, so I'd get these answers of, well, we'll do another nerve study in 3 months. So, again, we're putting time out there. We'll see you in a few months. The neurologist wouldn't let me go. The one thing they did find was I do have, they think now, looking back and having other doctors review my chart, say that yes, there is a nerve damage there that caused, and I mean, if you hear hoof beats, don't think horses, or don't think zebras, think horses. I mean, I'm an athlete, so years of torment to my body. So that was the discussion going on behind the scenes, was that it was a nerve damage, but nobody truly came out and said, you don't have ALS. Some have said, there's a 97% chance you don't have it. Well, again, 3%, do I have it? So that kind of went on, and along about, I guess, so they were looking at almost 2 years now of this stuff, I guess, a little less. And the holidays came up again, last Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I just started telling people, because I don't want to be this sad sack and burden to everyone else around me. I mean, I was certainly a burden to my husband, and other people knew, but I didn't tell them how deeply dark things were. We did our will, we did our trust, which is a good thing, actually, right? A lot of good things have come out of this. But, I did it in sort of a time of quick, get this done because I'm not going to be here. I wrote goodbye letters to my husband. I put,
Wow. Wow.
I know, it's intense. I asked my husband, he's a little fashionista and likes to buy me clothes and, and they're hard to get rid of, but, I'm going to get rid of my stuff, Tom. And he was like, no, don't, I'll do that. Just put some note, so I was putting notes in my clothing, and I'm still coming across those notes, it's just,
oh my God.
And it's good because it's not me anymore. So, I started telling people that no, I'm getting better, and I really wasn't, but I was started on that mode of you got to just let's pretend, let's just and I through all this could work through it. So I knew something in the back of my mind, you can push through anything, and so until the day comes where I can't get up and out of bed, and there were some days it felt like that, but I always just keep getting up. Can't run, go for a walk. If you just stretch, just do, just so. In January, I went and saw. So this is kind of the turning point. I probably blah on long enough on the scary stuff, right? So
No. There's no limit to talking about your feelings, which I want to get to. But first, I want you to continue the timeline of what happened, and then I want to ask a few questions about your sad, deep, scary feelings that you said, come fear, let's be together. Let's be okay. We're okay with this. We're together. You didn't abandon yourself.
No.
About that. So go ahead. So this is 2 years. This is 2 years now. And you've got this sort of unexplained medical symptoms, or medically unexplained symptoms. We call the MUS. And, you're managing, but giving up all the things you love, sort of thinking about that there's not such a good ending. And then what happened?
So in January of this year, actually, I went to see a doctor. Actually, it was skincare products. And to get, you need a prescription from the doctor who's in the office. And he came in, and he was really kind. And he had gone through, he'd read my record, because before they write scripts, they kind of check. And then I guess, it was sort of, wow, that's a big record. It's a dissertation. I mean, it's ridiculously big. It's embarrassingly big now that I know I'm like hard on myself. So it's part of the personality, right?
It was a chapter. It was a big, big chapter. And it probably could be a Hollywood blockbuster, but that's another story. Go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess. Yeah. But there's a lot of us out here. So that's what everyone, there's a lot of us out here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the doctor said, you know, I hear you. I mean, I need you to know I went through something really similar. I was actually, this is him talking now. I was actually diagnosed with ALS. I had muscle weakness. And it was spreading. I couldn't work. He had to take 6 months or more off of work. He kind of traveled, saying the system, and went out and got answers from another organization. The answers actually ended up coming back that it was something that was not ALS. It was spiral, but the light went on there for me, because it was like, wow. So here's someone else with almost identical symptoms, very similar story, athlete, went from full speed forward to full speed stop, who got better. Now, he didn't have answers as to why he got better, but just having somebody who got better was like an amazing thing for me. So my husband and I were leaving on a trip to go to Southern California, and the beautiful beaches, and live our life down there that we do, every couple months. We just go stay in a place. And he rides bikes and I ride bikes. It wasn't at that time. And I started, I stopped Googling, like, what do I have, and all that fear stuff of Dr. Google that, you have horrible things. But I started just looking on Facebook groups. And I was thinking, well, maybe I have long COVID. You see all that long COVID stuff. And so I started joining some long COVID groups and found that, oh my, wow, there's a lot of people out here. And there are multiple long COVID groups. And so I found all these suffering humans to identify with and just sort of, empathize. And I mean, I think just finding your peeps, because it's such a lonely experience, this whole thing. It's just lonely. And then when you suddenly find, like, the curtain is lifted and there's a gazillion people out there from all over the world with seeking answers. And so from that process, I learned that, people would plug in, people who had recovered actually would sign in and give people hope tips and what they did. And through that, people, and it's a really kind community, just really, and you can understand why. But anyway, so I found, some of the MindBody stuff and some of the podcasts, some of the YouTube recovery. One of the podcast folks said, listen to recovery stories, find the recovery. So I went off of for a while, all the long COVID fear stuff, and went on to the recovery and the hope stuff. And so that's, kind of like the second light bulb, was like, wow. And there's all these people out here now, just like me. And there's all these people out here who are recovered. And so I just binged this stuff, so I started like that, I was always walking. So just put on the headphones or.
So what was it? Something specific? Was it a specific, when they were recovering, what were they doing? Were they taking certain medications? Were they doing the mind-body work? Like, where did you get a little bit into the neuroplastic mind-body, positive affirmations, moving with the discomfort, knowing that if you walked on your calf, you would be okay? Like, what got you into that? Besides what the doctor did in the office, what also moved you? Like, was someone say something? Was there a wake-up call? Was there some kind of just like aha moment?
I think it was because I'm sort of a scientist, and and this kind of came up before with a physician who suggested MindBody, but I was kind of like, yeah, this is BS. You know, my husband immediately was like, no, I think this is it for you. But anyway, I found somebody was recommending books like Dr. Shubiner and Dr. Sarno and Alan Gordon, and they were sciencey enough, not too science, but soft enough to give you practical advice. So I could see, like,
Yeah.
you know, the neuroplasticity and it all was like, you know, so then I absorbed, you know, Amazon, got a bunch of books and started reading all that stuff. And so that was, you know, that's where it came into, and then the people on Facebook who were on these groups, you know, neural retraining and MindBody, and, you know, they were all making recommendations on things to do. You know, I'd always been on the Insight Timer app, but not such a good practice person of it. But, you know, just the calming the nervous system, the, you know, even the polyvagal stuff with, you know, the fight, flight, fawn, whatever the fourth one is now, I think.
Yeah. Freeze, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
Yeah. So, you know, I just started doing, and I've listened to, when I was in Southern California in January, this kind of what started it, like the actual, what can I do? And the simplest thing was somebody on a podcast. I think he was a guest on somebody's podcast. I think it's Ben Aarons, I think was his name. And he had been an athlete and a surfer. And, you know, same story, you know, it's like, you know, and I'll remember, you know, the poignant, a doctor more recently who's savvy in this stuff said, you know, your story is poignant, but not all that uncommon. It was like, but anyway, this guy, his thing was just take one deep breath. You know, you can fix yourself on one deep breath, which I think you don't have to make this as complex. You know, I think, you know, because I'm in my head all the time, pretty cerebral, make things way more complex than they need to be. Although I don't know if the complexity has helped me even further, because, you know, where I'm at today. But his thing was one deep breath. So I was out walking on the beach and Laguna Beach and listening to him, and, like, you know, he would say, you know, like, use your stress as an opportunity to train, you know. And so I'm a trainer. Bingo, I can train for an Ironman, and I can train for getting my mind back, getting my body back. And
Beautiful.
so it was kind of like, I heard him on something else, say, get in between the stimulus and the response. So a symptom, and these symptoms were hideous sometimes, you know, where I sometimes couldn't feel it. My legs hurt so bad I could barely walk on them. But okay, so I feel the symptom in my legs, this horrible, numb, aching, they're going to collapse on me. Okay, be mindfully aware of that and take a deep breath, you know. And then he'd say, you know, okay, so then you could take a deep breath, smile, and loosen, you know. So I noticed after that, man, in the mornings, my muscles were just tense, just like, you know, and I had this tremor, and the doctor sort of laughed at it, like, but you're making it happen. No, well, yeah, if I squeeze my legs together real tight, they would. Well, so I think I was just this tense ball of nerves. So that was kind of just one deep breath, kind of where it started.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's like all the qualities of an athlete. And I know one of my colleagues, Alec Casson, was a professional, almost going into professional biking racing, and he was young. He was in his 20s, and he had, you know, enormous chronic back pain, and then saw the mind-body healing, and now he works with athletes. But I think what's beautiful is the quality of the athlete is a certain mindset. And what you begin to do is to learn how to use that, you channeled it, because it works with the zone. It works in, you know, the race. It works, but like the brain might have somehow got dysregulated, and all of a sudden that power was working against you. And then you said, okay, so let me take that power and use it this way. And that's what you begin to do. But let me do it maybe on first gear. I don't need to be on fifth gear right now. Let me do it on first gear, which is still a very powerful gear. Who said first gear is slow? First gear is first gear. Yeah.
Well, it's
So
going forward.
there you go. So how long did it take you from that moment in that doctor's office, to starting to apply the information, one step at a time, one breath at a time? How long did that take you before you felt like you were behind, you were ahead?
I think probably within weeks. I'm going to say like within 3 weeks. I mean, I wasn't fully recovered, but I was like dramatically better. um,
Wow.
symptoms were still there, but I was now like taking stuff on, like, going to get back out and ride my bike longer and swim and be more.
You had the discomfort, you had the pain, you had the tremors,
The
correct?
fatigue. I'd have to say that probably the fatigue was the most distressing. It was just so tired that you could barely, like, I always called it sort of like jet lag on steroids, or it's just this tired, dark. But yeah, I still had that pretty bad, and I started tracking. I'm kind of a note taker. I'd say, some mild OCD stuff. Just, I'd have to just be successful.
It's called being human. It's called being aware.
Yeah. So I was tracking it. And so this kind of started end of January, the middle to end of January, the sort of awakening. And then, it's February. So I track February 1st, March 1st, April 1st. And so, I kind of went from like 90% suffering symptoms horribly all the time to, boy, I'm 35% better this month, and I'm 50% better this month, the next month, and 65, it's just kind of labeling it like where I was and what symptoms were still here and what symptoms were gone. Because then I could look back and see, like, you're improving. You are definitely
Amazing.
improving, versus looking at, it's kind of hard to see, like watching hair grow, when you don't see your hair growing, but over time you see you had a big growth,
Yeah.
not growth. So
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Stacy, I'm happy that you're here. I will answer your question in a minute. But I will have Pam answer your question. Pam, I would like to just ask you a question that might even help Stacy and some other listeners. What do you think it was your going into retirement that sort of put the system into a fight or flight? Because I know at some point your father passed away, but you were also the condition already started, or the mind body condition already started, and then your dad passed away, which probably kept you in a fight or flight state. But do you feel like it was something specific from your childhood, or maybe retirement, and you're such a personality? Do you think it was something specific that kind of caused all these symptoms, or maybe it was just the calf weakness that happened and then you unwound from there?
I'm going to say so I'm going to say the calf stuff was the lighter fluid on the maybe a bit of a fire,
Got it. Good point. Good
Yeah.
point. Like, it doesn't have to be something from childhood or trauma, but it was sort of, you did react to that, and kind of like, who knows what the brain and body and system did. But I do want to bring up Stacy. I've met Stacy months ago, and I'm happy that she came to the show. So I want you to maybe look at her. Can you see the question on the right? And we can address her question. Can you see it, Pam?
It's moving, but yes, I can see.
Yeah.
So what is her question? Is it, why am I not getting better?
So she had a bad injury 5 years ago. But on the flip side, she's had all these symptoms and more, been doing this work for a long time, still suffering. So how do we know what is the nervous system, what is true damage structurally or something? Please don't say doctors, no, they don't. Go ahead, you answer. I'm going to answer that too, because part of it is, go ahead, what do you think? Does it make sense to you, the question?
Yeah. So, and that's a tough one, I think, with this mind body, because we have bodies that real things do happen, right? We have structural, real damage. So it sounds like Stacy, that was her name, has had a real damage injury. But, and I stopped going to doctors. I innately knew last December, like, we are done with this game, and I'm a medical person, but they were making me worse, not intentionally. I think these doctors really cared and wanted to help. They didn't know how. It's sort of like, we're a huge piece of plexiglass, see each other, but we can't grasp each other and help each other. They wanted to help, but they couldn't. And the fear of all this was worse. So, even though the EMG, the nerve study came out negative, well, it actually was positive for some things, my injury, but even though that happened, I was still having symptoms. So you have to really get between that, what's causing these symptoms, and then accepting too, like, what is real. If Stacy had an injury, that sounds like a real thing to me. I mean, you want to get ruled out stuff, but if stuff's been ruled out and you have a diagnosis of something that makes sense to you, then you work within the confines of that injury or whatever. But real injuries, pretty much after 3 months are healed themselves, right? Tissue damage and stuff heals. So if you've still got major issues going on, then that to me often is sort of a clue now of, like, mind body, like, or
Also, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think
that's interrupt.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Pam and Stacy, I want to ask you both your opinion. What we're discovering in the mind body world, and again, I work with doctors. Dr. Hanscom is, I have a conversation with him Friday night. Like, we talk all the time, and he's the spinal deformity surgeon. So, and Dr. Shubiner and Dr. Sarno. So these are just my teachers, and they're just normal, regular people. And Dr. Clark is a gastroenterologist. 90-something% injuries heal. But the brain still thinks the tissue's damaged, and that's what we're dealing with.
Right.
Now, if there's even structural damage, or God forbid, somebody got shot and there's like a wound, that heals. Scar tissue doesn't cause pain. And then I've met people in my, years that have healed everything from chronic pain to autoimmune disease to multiple sclerosis. They could still have plaques on their brain or damages in their nerve. They can still function. They don't have to live in chronic pain. They may have some sensitivity of the feet. They may have some neuropathy, but they live a life. The body is striving for healing. So physically, the physical body is healing. What's happening neurologically is what we're talking about. And this is a very individual, personal thing. And the body can learn pain and unlearn pain. And that's what we're here to say is possible, probable, and we get in our way because we're sensitive, strong people, not because something's wrong with you, Stacy. It's a mind game. It's like, so, right, Pam? Like, what do you want to say to people that are just not getting better? What do you want to say to them?
Yeah. I'd say, like, keep listening to the stories of people getting better, because while we all think we're special, and we are, we're not unique in that we all have nervous systems and brains. And so I'd say just absolutely, keep the faith, even when you don't believe. Act as if you do. Just pretend. Just keep moving.
That's the quantum. That's the quantum. If your nervous system sees you behaving like you walking on a coccyx that hurt or a calf that was sore, if the nervous system sees that, it begins to believe that you're okay. So you took your fear and did it anyway. We're not saying get rid of the fear. The fear will be there, but you can calm the nervous system down, and that's the neuroplasticity. So, Stacy, part of it is the personality, part of it is your anger, your fear, your disbelief. You're not. Let me say it this way. I had a doctor on my show a few weeks ago who talked about pain being your superpower. I think what, Pam, you might have done is that you saw that your body wasn't against you. You developed a better relationship with your body, and it was healthier. And I think this is where it can be a key. You said the word opportunity, that you saw the opportunities that potentially could be in your pain. They weren't against you. Your body wasn't against you. Was that something that helped you, that you saw that your body was your friend? And maybe some of us are in conflict with our body, and that conflict is keeping the brain in fight or flight. Is that possible, Pam, from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the mornings were kind of the worst. And so, I just forced myself up and move. And then I'd realize, like, you can move, you can do all these things. So I think, it's the fear, just this tremendous fear that keeps tamping down. And, I think part of it is things to do is, in the moment when you notice that whatever the symptom is, or what, I notice the symptom. I notice I'm tight. I notice I'm really tired. I notice I have a pain. Take that deep breath. Have those in the moment things. There's all that stuff with polyvagal theory, where you can chew gum or hum or just anything to get your mind off of that symptom. So that's in the moment. And then the other stuff would be just calming your system in general. So, mindfulness meditations on the Insight Timer app. There's thousands of them. It's free. It's fantastic. Exercise, body movement. And when you start, schedule something, go do something with a friend. I started swimming open water again, and that really, I think, sort of up and over me, even closer to like 100% back, because I realized, because I wasn't doing that stuff, I was afraid of it. And so when you see that your body is able to do this stuff and you're not worse for the wear, and I know there's a lot of talk about post PEM or whatever it is, post, what is it called? Fatigue, PE, whatever it is, if you exercise. But I realized, no, I don't care, because I'm tired if I do exercise and I'm tired if I don't. So I'm out there, I'd swear at the devil, and you're not taking me out, and, I got too much to live for. But the reward would be in the fact that, yeah, maybe you're more tired the next day, or maybe you aren't, but you're not incapacitated. You can get up and do, just get up and do whatever, even if it's do the dishes or, just one foot in front of the other. It's kind of like that intense athlete thing, finish the Ironman marathon portion was, it was a long stroll in the dark by myself oftentimes, but one foot gets you to the finish line. So that answer the question.
Well, it's amazing because you're coming from an athlete point of view, and that's powerful. Fred Amir came on the show a couple times, and he wasn't an athlete, but he studied athletes, and he said they had motivation. So, Stacy, what is motivating you? What can you hang over your head and say, I want this enough? He wanted to carry his 4-year-old daughter enough. And that's in the mind of an athlete. Let's say you're not an athlete. So last week, a woman's on the broadcast, and she was scheduled for surgery. on her back for months and months for just because of the disc. Something happened with the disc. She didn't even have an injury. Nothing. So you didn't have an injury, but that was it. Surgery was going to be the answer. She gets like a little thing in her brain and starts to walk one step at a time, one dish at a time, one breath at a time.
Mm.
And she starts doing a little bit and then sitting down and resting a little bit. And she began to imagine and visualize herself. And I think, Stacy, what happens is like, there's that voice of, no, you can't do it. No, you're not enough. No, you're going to hurt yourself. What if you talked to the body and said, I can do this. I'm going to be okay. I'm already in discomfort. I'm not hurting myself. I'm not doing anything threatening. I'm doing my natural, I'm walking. I'm breathing. I'm sitting up straight. I'm stretching my, what if it was just a different relationship with the thoughts, which is the fear. The fear is the thoughts, because you had nothing threatening you, Pam. You had this discomfort, but there was no threat. It was a false threat. It was a perceived threat. So part of it is a relationship with the fear. Okay, fear, let's have coffee and talk about this. What really is going on for you? Oh, is it insecurity? You're not good enough? Oh, it's that voice from a child, or it's a voice from, you see, it becomes where you are in a love affair. I mean, this is what I say, like, you need to love the pain. You need to understand the pain. And I think this is what you're saying, Pam, and maybe what helps Stacy and anyone else listening, is that the body is protecting you. Pam, why was your body in this protective mode? Stacy, your body's protecting you with this pain. And you need to let the body know that you can bring safety and calm. And that's what this neuroplasticity is. So what you were doing with your exercise, Pam, was by actively doing something and walking or stretching, you were bringing calm. You were doing a somatic activity and bringing calm to your nervous system. And your nervous system was like, I get this. This person's so I think that you are able to quickly train your nervous system. And maybe it's a little bit more difficult for Stacy, but if you keep training and keep going and keep trusting, like Alan Gordon will say, trust this process. It's a repetition, 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 repetition. And if you don't see results, then just know that you're doing the best you can. We can't always be result oriented. Like we can't always, they call it, outcome independence. We can't always like have a good day. We have to have a day, like Winnie the Pooh says, it's a day. Let's just have a day where I'm in a healthy relationship, just practicing bringing calm, like I can do to a baby, like I can do to a little puppy. We need to learn to bring calm. And Pam, you were able to do this without much knowledge or education. You were able to just trust your body.
One thing I noticed too, which was just kind of an odd thing, and maybe it'll help others or help Stacy, but I noticed some things like that I would be pain-free at times, and so like, when were those times when I would be pain-free? Well, it would actually be, like doing things I like to do, so if I could just take my mind off of, I wouldn't feel the twitching and the tremors and the coccyx pain and it was just kind of this weird thing. And this is sort of, you're kind of looking for evidence for yourself, like that you don't have, there's nothing wrong with your body, and so early on I knew like, this is just weird. Like, okay, well, my husband and I go out and have a glass of wine. Like, wow, I don't feel tired at all right now. What is that about? So there were moments where I could see that there was something deeper going on here than just the physical stuff, Yeah.
Really amazing and wise advice. And it makes me think of Dr. Hanscom's work, who's talking a lot about play. So even in the face of pain or the face of a high sensation or an alarm at 10, can you somehow take a deep breath and say, I'm going to take this sensation that's a 10. I'm going to try to bring it down. I'm going to try to turn the dial down to a 5, and I'm going to go ahead for a walk. I'm going to go drink some wine. I'm going to go watch a funny movie. Because what you just talked about is the art of distraction and focus. You changed your focus. If we're okay, pain, go away. Okay, I want to meditate now. Come on, holiness. As opposed to, I'm going to sit here and trust this process and focus on something else. That's the brain. And they say if you're focusing on your breath, you're not going to feel your sensation. This is science. You know,
right.
So this is really powerful. And you being very scientific, and I kept forgetting, I didn't mention, it was said about your nurse in the bio, but I forgot that you're a nurse. Wow. Unbelievable.
The good and the bad news. Yeah. And
the balance.
Well, I read this in one of the books, so it's not my genius. I don't have much genius, but it was, not, maybe I read it on Facebook or something, one of the groups, but 10 people will hear this information. One person will believe it, and that one person will get better. So I think the crucial thing is just flood yourself with this and believe as best you can, even when you don't believe. Just and maybe I'll have a day where I don't believe. There's times that I'm still have doubt. Sometimes like, okay, wait, is it like, no, stop that in the moment. But I hate this term, but because I'm not that much of a softie, but it's like compassion. You're all the compassion science and self-love, and it's that to me always sounded so like, oh, how narcissistic.
Woo 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 woo.
But it's so important because in answer to Stacy's question and retiring and the spark that hit all this. I mean, we all have backgrounds. I have some background trauma, and so it's just and so there's lots of voices and perfectionism and you're not good enough and all the and like chat here and chat here. So
the voice, the monkey brain.
Yes. And mantras, actually, you reminded me of what, I'd have all these mantras, like when a symptom would bother me, and like, stay in your lane, monkey brain, just stupid stuff, just like become aware.
Right. Pam, I so appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that, like, it's not so comfortable to be vulnerable. It's not so comfortable to be compassionate. And yet, I quote every show, Dr. Clark. He has, he's like, a retired gastroenterologist. He's helping the PPDA, the Psychophysiological Disorders Association. He's an amazing doctor. He will say, and he said he observed and I think participated in over 700 gastro cases in understanding that they were mind-body, something like that. His book is called They Can't Find Anything Wrong with Me. He says on the record, can you be a butterfly on the wall of your childhood? And that's his treatment. This very conservative, professional, good-looking, white-haired man, can you be the butterfly on the wall of your childhood? And I'm like, okay, talk about vulnerability. And what is he saying? That we are, look, I'm a parent, I'm a grandmother. We know about trauma. We know about raising, but this is not the issue. Our parents did the best they could. We are doing the best we can. We are not a victim of our traumas. That's not what our parents intended. So it's really about forgiveness and love and compassion. And I promote this movie called Love Heals. I'm big on this movie called Love Heals. And in it, you'll see Dr. Hanscom and Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Fred Luskin and all these different doctors and talking about love and awareness. And what is love and awareness? Nurse Pam, science. It's the brain saying, I'm going to switch those glasses to glasses of safety, and I'm going to pull you into rest and digest into your parasympathetic nervous system, and I'm going to calm. And you learn that. You were able to learn that, and we all can learn that. You know what? So we're tough learners. So we're stubborn students. I am for sure. So Stacy, this is about faith. This is about belief. Pam and we were talking before the broadcast started about our love of God and our love of faith and reading the Bible and how that brings us peace and hope. And if that works for some people, then please bring God into your life. Please bring a divine source. Bring the quantum physics that you are the placebo. Okay, that you can break the habit of being yourself and evolve into the person who can love the part of you that you don't like, who can believe in your body that might have been needing attention. None of us fail. This isn't about failure. This is about falling and getting up and falling and getting up. And Pam, you are such a hero for me. And Stacy, you are a hero for me and many people. And there's so many of us coaches and physicians talking about healing and recovery stories. And this is not about for you to be like, well, I can't recover. It's more like hope, faith, not giving up. And Pam, I want you to end this broadcast with some words of your wisdom, because you are a wise soul, way beyond what you even believe. Wise soul. What would you like to share in ending for our audience?
Well, I mean, you can, I hate these sort of terms, but you can do this. You got it. You just don't give up. Keep coming back. Surround yourself with loving people. The men in my life will be, God and my husband and my dad, who died 3 weeks ago now, who never constantly, he was checking in with me constantly and thought, you're going to get better. You're going to get over this. So be kind to yourself. There's that compassion. And just keep doing, just, one foot in front of the other, whatever that means for you, no matter what. Just do not give up, because I almost did. So do not give up. And I'm here.
Wow.
I'm here. And life is good.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And Pam, Pam, if anybody wants to reach out to you, they can contact me through Facebook or the email, or through my YouTube, and I can share your email if they want to speak to you. I mean, it is so kind of you, because I reached out to you and you were like, yeah, I'd love to talk. I'd love to share. And it's not easy to come out here and share your story. And we're not in a live, we're not on TV, but we are bearing your soul. And in honor of your father, in honor of his soul, you are representing him and his belief in you, and your belief in yourself, and your belief in this process, and your belief in the human body that is, like Michael Galinsky, of All the Rage would say, we have this disease called being human. And I think if we can love and really accept our humanness, and, like the light between the cracks, like and how all of our gods, whether it's Jesus or Moses or Mohammed, how they were human, and they showed the humanness. They showed their balance in love and hate. They showed their struggling. All of our who we pray to, we're human. We're parts of God, and I think God shows us his. I won't get into faith here. It's another show, but I guess you and I, Pam, could talk a lot about the love of God and the God in all of us, and the beautiful, and again, the human body. Let me just end this with the body has a nervous system, and I don't want anyone to believe that their nervous system is controlling them. I mean, it keeps you alive and it protects you, but you are the navigator. You are the conductor. You are the pilot. This is the power. This is where your pain and your symptoms could be your superpower. And having a healthy relationship with yourself and the people around you the best you can, whether it's God or whether it's anyone that you honor. This is a relationship with your body. So I think what you always believed in as an athlete was this sort of love for your body to go and do. And I think what you did was you calmed down. Maybe this was about slowing down a little bit, maybe, Pam. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, the spiritual piece of this is, it did bring me to my knees and closer to God. And I was going 100 miles an hour. I'm not going to do any more Ironman, even if I can. I don't want to anymore. So it happened for a reason.
Wow.
And I wouldn't want to do this again, but it's changed me as a human, and
Wow.
for the better.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I am blessed and grateful. And thank you for coming into my studio and dropping your pixie dust here. you and your sneakers. You probably have lots of pair of sneakers.
Many.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll meet again. I always say we'll meet again. I don't like to say goodbye.
No.
But have a wonderful rest of your day. Pam is chiming in here from California, and it's my evening here in the Holy Land. And blessed to all of you out there listening. And with the help of God and the internet, we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Bye.
Okay, 1 second.